Good afternoon. This is Campbell McCreary, Amvest Capital in New York City. Welcome to the Amvest Capital Inc. live webinar with Guanajuato Silver Company, or G Silver. Guanajuato trades on the venture as GSVR and as GSVRF on the OTC. We hope you'll enjoy today's program. It will be available in on-demand replay mode about an hour after we wrap up here. You'll get it in an email, and you'll also be able to find it at amvestcapital.com/replays. We love questions. Please chat in your questions in the question pane of GoToWebinar in the control panel, or simply email them in, and we'll ask them in real time. Amvest is a New York-based specialist investment management corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource sector. And most importantly, this call is most definitely for informational purposes only. Have with us today James Anderson. We make you presenter, James. You want to turn on your webcam? He's the chairman and CEO. Comes out of the financial sector. About 20 years as retail broker, investment banker, investment manager. Firms like First Canada, Research Capital, Magendai Securities, and many of you may have known him from his 9-year stint at New Legacy Gold, where he was the CEO from 2012 to 2019. And again, we'd love to get your questions. So please ask them. Just send them in right there. And see the presentation. James, you just want to click on the camera icon next to your name on the side of the control panel. We'll begin. There we are.
Fantastic. Thank you for that.
And now we see your background. So.
Oh, fantastic. How's that?
There we go. Excellent.
All right. Fantastic. Later. Okay, Campbell, thank you very much. Thank you, Stuart, as well, and Adam, everybody at Amvest. This is our very first webinar with Amvest, so we're looking forward to working with them into the future. Campbell tells me that I've got about 20 minutes to show you the presentation, so I'm going to work swiftly and efficiently through our slide deck, try and give you an overview of what Guanajuato Silver is, where we're going, what we're trying to do, and then hopefully open it up to a number of different questions. And one of the things as I am working through the slide deck, I just want to emphasize that we are a different small cap mining company. Most of the other mining companies that you'll see introduced by Amvest and other groups are exploration companies. They're drilling holes into some kind of an anomaly somewhere and expanding or hoping to discover a big deposit. We're taking a different approach. We are going directly into the mining business using a mine and mill that we've recently purchased from Endeavour Silver. And we think that sets us apart, and we are on track, on budget, and on time to go into the mining business in silver and gold production in the fall of this year. So I will be making some forward-looking statements, and there is our forward-looking statement. What you see here on the screen right now is the El Cubo mine and mill complex. We just recently paid $15 million for this asset, which we think is a fantastic deal. We are a company that likes to get bargains. The last time that this asset changed hands was in 2012, when Endeavour Silver paid $200 million for it. So we think that the $15 million price tag is, very advantageous for our group and our shareholders. You can see a picture of it here on the left. It is a substantial mining operation, and it's a mine that has been in production on and off, but mostly on for about 200 years. So we feel very confident that the epithermal system that's in place on this mining concession will be available for mining for many, many years to come. On your right is a picture of inside the mill that I actually took in November of last year when we were there with our third-party engineers, Bear Dolbear, who have written a PEA for us. And you can see that the mill is in excellent shape. Endeavour Silver took very good care of it, even while they had closed it down in November of 2019. So it's only been closed for about 18 months. we're going to refurbish this mill, and we've already made some big strides in that, and begin putting material through the mill as early as the fourth quarter of this year. So a couple of, again, sort of high-level things that I'm going to want to talk about. There is a PEA that we've done, again, written by Bear Dolbear, the American engineering firm. It shows a 7-year mine life with 7 million ounces of indicated material, but over 20 million silver equivalent ounces of inferred material at the El Cubo operation. And that is material that that we know where it is, we know how to access it, and you're only talking about something, but areas within the mine that are 500 to 2,000 meters away from a 1,500 ton a day mill. The management team, I will want to make some comments on that a little bit later in the presentation. We like to say 3 months to production. Although in terms of mining, we hope to be able to make an announcement just over the next couple of weeks that mining has commenced. We will be stockpiling material at the El Cubo operation, both underground and then in the laydown yard in front of the mill, prior to the mill becoming fully operational in the fourth quarter, and we're hoping in October that that's the case. All of the people on this call who are listening to me right now are investors in the junior mining business, and that's why you guys are here listening to our story. So I think it's very helpful to know who else is invested in this company. As part of the acquisition of El Cubo, Endeavour Silver became our largest shareholder. With about 23 million shares, it equates to about 11% of the company. Mermacan Capital is a Connecticut-based precious metals fund run by a friend of mine named Dan Oliver. I've known Dan for about 8 years or so. Dan is on our board of directors, and Campbell and Dan actually have known each other since university days. I think they were actually roommates way back then, and Campbell tells me that that's one of the reasons that Dan got interested in the precious metals business. But Mermacan and Dan Oliver, being 10.5% holders of the company, very, very helpful in terms of introducing us to other sources of capital along the way. G Silver directors and advisors, so we are all very, very much aligned with other shareholders of the company. I'm a big part of this number, and I think that that's obviously very important. VBS is a family office from Australia. They are sometimes billed as Australia's wealthiest family. They also put a gold mine back into production in Australia a couple of years ago, so they have a team that can do a pretty deep dive on mining assets and mining propositions, which they've done here and have made a sizable investment. There's also another guy out of Toronto named Eric Sprott, who they tell me also knows a great deal about mining. Very nice to be able to have Eric personally on our shareholder roster as well. You might want to know as well what our financial position is like. We've got, as of the middle of this month, about 4.5 million Canadian dollars in the treasury. We are just days away from accessing a gold and silver loan facility, which we announced many months ago, and then the lawyers took over, so that's why it's been taking so long. But nonetheless, we will draw down $7.5 million US dollars, which everything on this slide is corrected to Canadian dollars, which equates to about 9.3 million Canadian. So we'll have 13.8 to finish the refurbishment of the mill, do a little bit more development work at our 2 properties in the Guanajuato area, and begin processing gold and silver ore to make a gold and silver concentrate in the fourth quarter. It leaves us with a market cap of about $80 million currently. Those, again, are Canadian dollars. If you look at the stock chart too, just a couple of points about that. The stock had a very good run as we completed the acquisition of El Cubo. I think everyone very much appreciates how fast the company is moving and appreciates the direction that we're going. We pushed out about $17 million worth of equity in order to have the money to buy that mill. and that stock came free trading about a month ago, and into a generally weak environment for silver and gold companies. So that's why the decline in the share price. I think that that's just about over, and from today's action and the last few days' action, I think we're forming a new base, and therefore I think that it presents itself as an opportunity for new investors in the company. The PEA, everyone likes to use the term robust in our business. Our PEA is very utilitarian. It describes the number of ounces of silver equivalent that we can process through our mill from El Cubo over the next 7 years, though the total resource that we have outlined there gives it about a 9 or 10 year mine life at the rate that we want to process material. A 1.8 year payback period, averaging close to 2 million ounces of silver equivalent per year, and an operating cost of $9.42. And I will just give you a little caveat about that. You know, at the PEA level, some of the numbers are spot on, but some of the numbers might be a little high and a little low. Our internal modeling has our operating costs just a little bit north of that, but nonetheless, we feel that we can make very, very good money with this business that we're developing over the years ahead. At El Cubo, what you're looking at here is a long section of the vein material that's in place in the main Villalpando vein section. Villalpando has been mined for decades. There's ample material left over. What you're looking at here, all the red dots, those are drill holes that were drilled by Endeavour in order to establish this area. By way of explanation, Endeavour wanted to run this mine and mill at about 1,500 tons a day. And in our way of thinking, that's too fast for this mine. This is a fantastic asset. It's been in production, as I said, for close to 200 years. It is, however, a very typical Central Mexican epithermal system. The resource is derived from about 19 different veins on the project. The veins are generally 1 meter and 1.5 meters wide. They're very good grade, but they're narrow. And if you try and mine that too quickly, and we think that too quickly at El Cubo was 1,500 tons a day, you reach the point of bottleneck and you reach the point of inefficiency. What we will be doing is mining this at a more narrow average mine width, be somewhere between 1.5 meters and 2.5 meters, but the grade will go up significantly. And in some of these highlight drill holes, you get a really good view of what I'm talking about there. If you look at this drill hole here, you can mine it over a 4-meter stope and have 194 grams of silver equivalent, but it's much more efficient to mine it at 1.4 meters, have 470 gram silver equivalent. So you're going to be moving less material in terms of dilution, but you're going to be having almost as many ounces, and in terms of grade, your grade's going to go up significantly. So we will run the whole operation at about half of what Endeavour was running it at in terms of tons, but we feel that we can be more profitable in so doing. On this slide, what you see in blue are the 7,000 hectares of mining claims that we've also got with this transaction. So we not only get the mill and the mine and the resource, but we get 7,000 hectares of prospective mining claims in a 480-year-old silver and gold mining camp. This is one of North America's longest and best established camps. They've been mining silver here since about 60 years after Columbus sailed across the Atlantic. You can also see all of the claims in blue. That's what we purchased from El Cubo, or from Endeavour rather. In red are the Penguico and Petito claims that we already had prior to this transaction. And Penguico is a very interesting past producing silver and gold mine in and of its own right. Part of the magic about us being able to buy El Cubo and being very efficient with it is that we will be able to draw material both from El Cubo and Pinguico. Pinguico is only about 8 kilometers, so we'll call it about 5 miles by road from El Cubo. So we can easily transport mineralized material from Pinguico to Cubo for processing. Pinguico was, once upon a time, the highest grade mine in this 480-year-old mining camp. It was also an asset that was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And you can see the choo-choo train image on your left-hand side. That's actually from the 1909 annual report of the Pinguico Mines Company. So we think that's pretty cool. You can also see over here on the right, obviously a contemporary picture. The material that you see in the background there is stockpiled material. It was waste 110 years ago when the mine was in operation. It's no longer waste. It grades somewhere between 105 and 110 grams of silver equivalent per ton, which is moderate grade, but it's just sitting on surface. All we have to do is get a front end loader, put it on the back of a couple of 20-ton trucks, drive it the 5 miles over to El Cubo and process it. And it is part of the magic that allows us to get going so quickly from buying the mill and the mine at El Cubo, refurbishing it, and having production in the fall. There also exists at Pinguico an underground stockpile. That was never waste. It was designed as a low-grade stockpile 110 years ago. The only thing is that their idea of low-grade and our idea of low-grade are very, very different things. The grade of the underground stockpile is about 300 grams of silver equivalent, and we don't have to mine it, we don't have to blast it, we don't have to find it. We simply have to remove that material to surface safely, and the safely part will require some CapEx, but that's well within our budgeting plans. People do like to see some exploration going on. About 6 months ago or so, we took channel samples all along the exposed vein material at Pinguico. The grades are very good. We can get underground both at the 4th and the 7th levels. And currently what we're doing, we've purchased our own drill rig. So people ask me sometimes, so, how big is your drill program? And I like to say that it's infinite because we don't really plan to stop. People like to say that they have aggressive drill programs. I don't like aggressive drill programs. I like slow and steady drill programs where you know what you're trying to achieve and have good results and expand a resource. That's what we're doing at Pinguico. And you can see the first round of drilling here, the widths are typical 0.5 meter to 2, up to 8 meter width material, but the grades are very, very good. And so this is going to work very well within our philosophy of high grade, narrow vein mining in central Mexico, and using the El Cubo mill as a hub and spoke mechanism to be able to start production very quickly. There is a blue sky drill target at Pinguico that people like to hear about, and I love to describe. The big structure that has been the focus of mining for 480 years in the Guanajuato area is called Veta Madre, or the mother vein. Over the years, the miners have taken about 2 billion ounces of silver out of that structure. They call it the mother vein, but it's not really a vein at all. It's a regional fault structure that's been intruded by a very powerful, long-lived, multi-pulsed epithermal system. That system was mined by Fresnillo, which is the largest silver mining company in the world. Fresnillo is a Mexican company. Its shares trade in London with about a 10 billion pound market cap. They mined the mother vein directly adjacent to Pinguico for 30 years, from 1972 until 2002, to within about 250 meters of our claim boundary. That structure is likely going to cross our Pinguico claim boundary at depth, and at the intersection of the mother vein and the narrow but very good grade Pinguico system, that is a cool drill target. And that's the sort of thing that could change the affairs of the company significantly. We will be drilling that in the months ahead. You can see over here on the left a quote by Professor Robert Hill, who was part of the mining operation in 1906. They understood back then this setup that we're talking about. They just didn't have the drilling capacity to be able to test it the way that we can. So we'll be doing that in the months ahead. I do, before we entertain some questions, I want to be able to describe maybe not everybody involved in our company, because we've been hiring a lot of people and attracting a lot of people to a very, in my estimation, an interesting, somewhat unique, and very powerful setup in terms of assets. One of the people who we've attracted is Ramon Davila. Ramon joined our board of directors about 4 months ago. And in my estimation, Ramon has the best CV in Mexican mining. He was the chief operating officer and on the board of directors of First Majestic from when that company went from 4 employees to 4,000 employees. He was the chief operating officer when that company went from 0 production to 10 million silver equivalent ounces per year. So he's got lots and lots of experience. In 2016, he became the economy minister for the state of Durango in Mexico. He left that position last year. He's interested in getting involved in the mining business again, and we've given him that opportunity, and we couldn't be happier that he's joined our team. Hernan Dorado is our chief operating officer. Hernan and I are really partners in this venture. Hernan has become our chief operating officer. He's worked in Canada, in Australia, all over Latin America, but he has gone home to Guanajuato. He's a graduate of the University of Guanajuato, as is Ramon. It's a famous mining school in Mexico, and probably half of the people who we have working with us right now are graduates of that university. Also on our board, Bill Galen. Bill is an American geologist, but lives in Vancouver now. Bill is an epithermal expert. He spent 25 years in Latin America, mostly in El Salvador and Argentina. His experience among epithermal systems is helping us a great deal in terms of targeting and expanding our resources. I'm not going to list everybody or talk about everybody on this slide. However, what you will see here is that the vast majority of the people in managerial roles in Guanajuato are from Mexico. This is a very different way of operating than most of the companies. Most of the companies from Australia, Canada, the United States, Britain, they bring their own teams and hire Mexican labor. We're going to bring the excellent Mexican mining engineering staff and put them in positions of authority. And we feel that that's going to be a fundamental difference between us and a lot of the other companies, and a fundamental strength that we have where a lot of other mining companies operating in Mexico do not have. You can also see many of these people with direct experience at El Cubo, and of course that's going to be very important here in the months ahead. We also have an advisory board that consists of Tuki Angus, who may well be Canada's most successful mining businessman over the last 20 years. John Budreski is on the board of Sandstorm. I've known John for many years, and we were on the board of directors together at New Legacy. Greg Hawkins is a very well-established, I dare say famous geologist for having mineral discovery credits all over the world. I don't want to overplay this slide, but these are folks that I can call at any time for advice, and in our business, quality advice it comes at a great premium. So that's always loved, and I think of them very affectionately. So Campbell, I think that's about the end of my presentation. If you want to open it up to questions, I'm happy to tackle those.
Excellent. Again, everyone, please, you can just send your questions in, find your way to the question bar there or the chat bar, and we'll integrate them into our questions along with the questions from my colleagues at Ambest. Can you tell us about the mineralogy of the silver and what is the metallurgical recovery of silver and gold? Dig in that a little bit more.
Sure. So, I mean, in terms of met recoveries, two different systems, and I am not a metallurgist by any stretch. However, they're both epithermal systems. They're only about 5 kilometers away from each other in a straight line. So we think that they're pretty similar. With regards to El Cubo, we have years and years of data, and that data presents itself as about 86 and 85% silver and gold recovery, respectfully. All of the mills in the area are flotation mills, so that's how we are recovering that material. At Pinguico, it's a little bit different. Now, we sent the 1,000-ton bulk sample from Pinguico to Endeavour's other mill in the area called Bolanitos last year. And remember, the surface material has been sitting outside for 110 years, so that stuff is somewhat oxidized. Nonetheless, just over 3 days, we managed to get an average of 75% recoveries for gold. Silver, we're in the low 60s, but we think that we can do better than that on a go-forward basis, and certainly the unoxidized in situ material we feel will release itself much like the El Cubo material, and the initial tests that we've done at SGS on Pinguico material would suggest that as well.
Where is Bolanitos in relation to your property?
So Bolanitos is about 28 kilometers to the north of Pinguico. So Bolanitos is north of the city of Guanajuato. We're south of the city of Guanajuato.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about your growth plan besides this, bringing this all into production, exploration, any kind of organic upside?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and it's one that that a CEO with a public company has a difficult time really pinning down. But let me just say philosophically, the first time that I went to Guanajuato, I was struck by the fact that there were 4 mills within 30 kilometers of one another, and not one of them was filled to capacity. So my immediate thought was, well, gosh, that sure sounds like a recipe for consolidation of the mining industry within this fantastic historic mining camp. El Cubo is the first platform for us to be able to do that. There's a number of other opportunities that we can pursue for expansion. A number of them are private, some of them are public, and it will be a combination of acquisition in that way and active exploration. I'm an explorationist by heart. We bought our own drill rig for a reason, but for a couple of reasons, and one of them is to make a statement that we are an exploration company, and we will continue to look for more ore on these 7,000 hectares of prospective mining ground that we own.
Larger plan, does it make sense where you are on the continuum of being a regional consolidator versus being a juicy takeover target?
Yeah, okay. Well, I prefer the first rather than the latter. I think if you look at the way that the mining business has gone over the last 20 or 25 years, what the junior companies have wanted to do is to drill holes in the ground, expand a resource, and then try and sell that to a bigger company. I don't want to do that with Guanajuato Silver. My partners don't want to do that. We want to build the company. I think we've got the team, and now with Cubo, we have the platform to be able to do that. So I think I just commented on some of the expansion possibilities within Guanajuato. I think that can be expanded philosophically to central Mexico, but I do not have much desire to be a multinational corporation either. So our growth is going to be very focused, and it will take place within central Mexico.
Could you go through why Pinguico closed, and what is the potential mining rate and grade from the fresh ore? Pinguico.
Yeah, okay. So Pinguico closed in 1913 because of the Mexican Revolution. It was not mined out. They had mined down to the 10th level, and by all the reports, and we've got a series of geological reports from 1906, in favor of the New York Stock Exchange listing. And then we have several of the annual reports. So by the statements from all of the reports, the deeper that one goes, you get a little bit wider vein system and a richer system. So that's pretty intriguing for us. The drilling that we're doing right now, and sometimes you drill where you can, and sometimes you drill where you want to. Right now, we're drilling where we can, which is underground on the southern portion of the property. But we're getting good widths of good grade, and I think that as we expand that lower, we'll continue to get good grade. The historical grades that they were taking out are embarrassingly high. They're so high that I don't like to quote them in presentations. But it is saying something that they were the highest grade mine in this region, for many years. So I can't give you a good scientific number here right now. But if you do look at some of the silver equivalent ounces in some of our very first drilling that's ever taken place in a modern context on this property, the grades are pretty darn good. So that's my answer.
Okay. One more question before I pass the baton over. Why did Endeavour divest, and what was the price of silver when it did divest?
Right. So in terms of price of silver, when Endeavour closed this operation, price of silver was about $16, and that was in November of 2019. If you go on to, and rather than me putting words in Brad Cook's mouth or coming up with stories, if you go on to Endeavour's website and go on to a section that's called CEO Chat or something like that, Brad answers that question very directly about why they sold it. And if I can paraphrase just slightly and sort of come to where we are with it, the best way to run El Cubo is at a slower rate than what Endeavour was running it at. But at that slower rate, it has a very difficult time affecting a $1 billion market cap company like Endeavour. So Brad and I agree that asset is more useful in a smaller market cap company like ours. We can use it as a lifting off point and a place for growth, whereas they wanted to use their capital and their expertise on their other development projects, especially at Terronera, which is a development project that they have in a different part of Mexico that's expanding. Brad is also a pretty savvy market player, and I think that he feels that the 11% stake in our company may well be more useful to Endeavour than to a continued operation at El Cubo that perhaps wasn't being run as efficiently as we feel that we can with the new mining philosophy.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for the presentation, James. So when you bought the asset, if you could just go through like the funding stack, how much you bought the project for, how you funded it, debt, equity, etc., and the price of that original, recapitalization financing.
Yeah. Okay. So happy to do that. You can everybody can see the chart of the stock here.
Yep.
You can see that gap. In Canada, the regulators like to halt stocks for a long period of time sometimes, while major transactions like this, and the Toronto Venture Exchange deemed this to be a fundamental transaction for our company, which I can't really disagree with. They halt them for too long, in my opinion. But during that time, we raised 17 million Canadian dollars to pay for the $15 million US transaction. So what does that actually look like? We ended up paying $7.5 million in cash, US dollars in cash. So that ends up being like about 10 million Canadian. Plus we have to pay the value added tax of that transaction in Mexico. So we will get that money back as we go into production, but it's still a cash flow issue. So we had to come up with another 1.6 million US for the taxes. So that was a good chunk of that 17 million Canadian, or call it 13 million US that we raised. The money that we're going to draw down within days here now, the silver and gold loan, that will be to give us a little bit of a buffer, finish the refurbishment of the mill, and begin some additional development work to make sure that we've got enough ore in sight in different stopes, in different faces within El Cubo to make sure that we have a seamless restart and continual mining operations as we go into the future.
Got it. Thanks for that. And then who was the gold silver loan from?
The name of the outfit is OCIM. It's really a family office from Paris. They have a Geneva office as well, and it's the Geneva office that we communicate with.
Gotcha. And then the regional fault structure, the Veta Madre, you know, do you have plans to drill that? How deep can the drill rigs go in the area? Do you have to access it from underground, or
Okay.
about that and that
Understood.
plan?
Yeah, all excellent questions, and I think that it's fair to say, because I've been talking about this drill target for a number of months. In a slightly different world, we would be drilling this target right now. The reason for some of the delays, when we knew for sure that we were going to be buying El Cubo, basically what I said to the exploration team was, okay, we'll just stop any plans for drilling this target right now. And the reason is, as part of the 7,000 hectares of mining claims that we got, we end up owning a tiny little claim that shows up like right here, right beside Pinguico. And it ends up being an absolutely perfect place to drill into the Veta Madre structure and drill shallowly and then deeper and deeper as we can target the deeper intersection of these structures. And I'm just going to go back here for a second, just so that everybody knows what I'm talking about. So you can see all of the blue claims. Well, look at that tiny little, I call it the postage stamp claim, because it's about that size, but we own it now, and it is absolutely perfectly placed for us to drill into that target. And then there's one other little wrinkle. So in part of Fresnillo's mining that took place, just to the east here, there is an old adit, and it's a 30-year-old adit, not a 130-year-old adit, but there's an old adit that actually crosses the postage stamp claim. Well, we would like to use that adit and get our underground drill into that adit underground and drill even closer, about 150 meters closer to the Veta Madre target. Now, we have asked our friends at Fresnillo about that. The general response is, yeah, okay, we can get that done, but it is a big company, and getting answers back from a big company can be slow. So we're going to try and work our magic and get that done in the next few months. If that doesn't materialize, then we will drill that target from surface from the postage stamp claim.
Got it. Very good. Thanks for that, and I'll pass it on to Adam.
Great. Thanks, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yep.
All right. James, great presentation. A couple of questions. Some have just been sort of mulling in my mind for a while. Thinking about El Cubo and the existing indicated and inferred resources that you guys have there, I understand what you guys need. What you guys have as far as cash to get the mill up and running and to get that early stage development work done to get the ore that's starting to flow to the mill. But maybe could you go into what you guys are projecting as far as CapEx per year to keep up with the development work, to keep delivering that ore from to the mill, and also perhaps the exploration drilling budget you're going to need per year to upgrade the indicated and the inferred resources that you have now at El Cubo to get them to the point where you need for the actual mining.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. And in terms of full disclosure, everybody that's listening, Adam and I have known each other for 6 or 8 years. I consider Adam to be one of the best mining analysts in North America. Him
You're making me
joining
blush.
Amvest is a huge boon for Amvest for many reasons. Thanks for the question, Adam. I think the most succinct way that I can describe that, in our financial model, we've got just under $1.5 million a quarter in mining capex that extends, for the whole model. And those are numbers that have been studied by Hernan, by Gerardo, Charlie Ortiz, who's our mine planner. We think that that's going to be adequate capital to be able to continue to develop different areas within El Cubo. In terms of exploration, we've got about $500,000 a quarter set aside for mostly exploration at Penguico right now, but there will be, just because we divvy it up between exploration and capex, so the infill drilling lines up as capex, and that will begin at Cubo in August.
Okay, so 1.5 million per quarter capex, including infill drilling, and then $500,000 per quarter of more pure exploration.
That's right.
And that is Penguico and El Cubo on the exploration side.
It is, and the exploration dollars are going to be mostly spent at Penguico right now, but there's a ton of exploration to be done at El Cubo. And will we be desirous of expanding that budget in the future? Yes, we absolutely will. I mean, as part of the acquisition, we got all of the computer modeling that Endeavour did in the past, and we're using that and doing a bunch of our own modeling, which obviously, because of our desire to mine the thing in a more narrow fashion, we're changing some of the search parameters. But some of the things that you see are lone drill holes that might be 2 meters of a kilo of silver equivalent that are hundreds of meters away from either known veins or their extension of known veins, but without any further drilling around them. The other thing at Cubo, and this is known throughout the district, so most of the vein structures run northwest, but there are transverse or perpendicular veins, very regular. Most of them are narrow, and most of them are higher in gold as a percentage basis than the mostly silver veins that go northwest. But those perpendicular, those transverse veins have been underexplored at El Cubo, and that's something that we want to work in the future. When I was in Guanajuato in May, I was talking with the exploration staff about doing some CSAMT, because I think that's going to give it, which is for people who don't know, that's a geophysical tool that I think is going to be very helpful, very appropriate for this type of deposit. And so we've got some loose plans about doing some of that work in the future as well.
Very good, very good. The current plan, as you guys have it set, is to process the known resources at El Cubo, and to process the above ground stockpile at Penguico, and to process the underground ore stockpile at Penguico. So just to be clear, there's no plans yet to be processing fresh ore from Penguico.
There isn't. What there is a soft plan. It's mentioned in our last news release to initiate a first maiden in situ resource at Penguico. The drilling that we've done so far and our ability to be able to get underground on the 4th and 7th levels at Penguico, we can see the veins, we know where they are. The drilling so far has been it's been very good, maybe not spectacular, but very good. And we're going to continue to drill that. And really, it's turning into a grid drilling exercise that we will likely finish in December, and I think that we'll be able to establish a fair bit of ore that we can access very readily here in the months ahead.
Excellent. And just staying on Pinguico for a moment, have you guys cleared out now level 7 all the way to the adit, or is that still, sorry, all the way to the to the adit?
We have not. We have cleared about 800 meters worth. Again, I was underground in level 7 in May. Because we're doing so many different things so quickly, you know, we do have to be just a little bit mindful of personnel, of safety. Going north in the level 7 adit, you know, we ended up getting about 150 meters underneath the underground stockpile, and then it got a little tricky and a little, you know, unsafe because of the stockpile being directly above you. And we just felt at that time that, well, what are we trying to do here? What's our raison d'etre? And I think that what we're developing here right now is a more direct plan to make that number 7 adit rather than an old, you know, not quite 2 meter by 2 meter thing. We've sampled all the way along that 800 meter structure now. There's good grades throughout it. So what we're really planning on doing is opening up all of level 7 using a 4x4 drift for 1.2 kilometers. We feel that the material that we'll be able to take out in so doing will pay for that access. And
so you're gonna start from the south side, start from the adit opening and basically slash it out, starting from the south, working your way north.
Correct. And we think that like I say, we think we'll be able to put that material through the mill and make the $2 million that it might cost us to build that access.
Okay, excellent.
Which has a whole bunch of different benefits, right? We'll be able to take out some additional vein material that was left behind by the old timers. Maybe it didn't quite make grade 110 years ago. It will also be able to access easily, you know, without it being a science experiment. We'll be able to access very easily at that point the underground stockpile.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And just from a practical standpoint, how is it that you release the underground stockpile? Do you drill it from level 4 and blast it so it falls into 7 and then muck it out?
Well, it has been debated and discussed over many beers over many months in Guanajuato, I can tell you. But I think that the current plan is going to be to put in that 4x4 access, and then as you approach the underground stockpile, to ramp down to level 8 and access it that way.
Okay.
And then draw it down to level 8 and bring it out of the mine along level 7.
Got it. So the underground stockpile goes all the way down to level 8?
Yes, it does. It's a little bit complex, but let me just say yes, it does, and move on. Otherwise, we'll spend an hour on that. Okay,
fair enough. Bigger picture, Jim. Did Endeavour keep up all of their permits at El Cubo?
Yes, and maybe I should do a better job of mentioning that in the presentation. But one of the other things that kind of sets us apart, all of the permits to mine and our tailings facility. I often only half joke that the most important thing about a mining enterprise anywhere on the planet these days is a tailings facility. Like, where are you going to put the material? You can find ore, you can even find money, not too difficult a fashion these days, but finding a tailings facility with a proper permit, that's very important. So we are permitted to mine. We've also got blasting permits there as well, Adam. And as you know, in Mexico, blasting permits are tricky. final acquiescence.
Given by the Army, I think, right?
That's right, exactly. Given by the armed forces there. And those are in place for us to use at Cubo. We have just a little bit of a workaround at Pinguico right now where we're using a development blasting permit. And so that's what we're using right now rather than a mining blasting permit. But that'll work just fine for us into next year at Pinguico.
Yeah, I guess that was my next question, is sort of what do you need at Pinguico to as far as permits to access the underground stockpile, and are there additional permits that would be needed for fresh ore?
There are additional permits that'll be needed for fresh ore. You know, we're a ways from needing that for our mining plan, but certainly it's in the back of our head. We have hired a permanent environmental manager, Monica Sellis, who's comes to us from First Majestic, and you know, so very experienced, and you know, she's got her hands full as well, you know, with all of the various a lot of times you don't necessarily need a new permit, but you do have to notify the authorities about, you know, mining activity and what you're doing. So we're doing a lot of that right now. But you know, it's an important part of any 21st century mining company is to be able to address all of those issues, and I think we're doing that.
Excellent, excellent. Let me just pass it back to Campbell to address any additional questions that might have come in from the audience.
Thanks. I actually have one more question, but just on a high level, some people view the stage you're at as one of the riskiest. So how are you trying to mitigate that kind of production ramp up risk on an asset that you guys have not previously operated at?
Yeah, okay, so great question, and you know, candidly, I agree. You know, you look at the number of companies that have tried to kickstart, bootstrap an operation like this back into production. You know, it can be tricky. So what are the hurdles? What does everybody fail on? Thing one is capital. And I think that, you know, we've already bought our crushers, we've bought our ball mill liners, we've still got ample money. When we were raising money, equity money, a number of months ago, and people said, well, why do you need all that money? Why do you need all that money? Well, it's for right now is why we needed all that money. And I don't want to wake up in the morning with a phone call that says, well, we need another $500,000 item and we don't have the money. So I think we are adequately funded for all of this. I think the other point about that, Stuart, is what Adam just discussed. You know, do you have some failure regarding permitting just as you're going into production? And I don't believe that's a probability here right now. I think that we've got everything in place to be able to do that. There was one other comment that I was, just you know, the point that you make, the way that you phrase the question, I think is interesting and elegant, and that's that, you know, an operation that we've never operated before, which is true. But if you look at the number of people on this list, then you look at the number of people who have genuine El Cubo experience, it's you know, it's a significant amount of people on our staff who've worked there before. So I think that's a huge advantage for how we're moving into place. Also, I'll tell you the other huge advantage. I mean, the company that owned the asset before, Endeavor, well, they're our largest shareholder. So on the ground in Guanajuato, they're extremely helpful if we need to know something, if we need to borrow something, and I dare say that will continue into the future. You know, why wouldn't it? They are our largest shareholder.
Right. Yeah, I like your answers, and you know, especially the operating team slide as well. Will give lots of people comfort. I'll pass it to Campbell.
Sure. Just a few more questions, and we'll wrap up. Thanks everyone for tuning in. have to ask, did this used to be Van Gold?
Yeah, that's right.
How long was Van Gold listed?
Well, Van Gold was listed on the, on Canadian stock exchanges from the mid 1980s. It was actually incorporated in 1978. So if anybody that didn't follow Campbell's question there, before Guanajuato Silver called itself Guanajuato Silver, it was called Van Gold, and it was called Van Gold for a long time. It did all kinds of different things all over the world. It drilled for drilled holes looking for uranium in Uganda years ago. It was looking for a gold mine in Papua New Guinea. It had some luck about 15 years ago drilling oil wells in Texas. So it was a shell company when I took over control of it, and it had this little project called Pinguico. And when I was first there, I was shocked and amazed that we could control the company with that kind of asset. And it had fallen on deaf ears. So that's sort of the history of it. Van Gold was around for a long, long time. We've changed the name of it, and it remains listed in Canada.
Someone says July 10th saw the March placement free trading. Is that part of the present day shares outstanding?
Yes, it is, and I noted that when in the presentation.
Are they in friendly hands?
Yeah, that's right. So all of those shares are free trading now. And when I was commenting on our stock chart, after a good run, let's say a month or so ago, the stock began to decline a little bit. Some of that was due to this freshly traded. The 4-month hold period had come off of the financing stock. So all of that is free trading now. There was a little bit of pressure on the stock into a market that wasn't particularly strong because of gold and silver equities contracting. But I think that that's behind us now, and I think that the market is getting comfortable again. Looking at the fundamentals and looking at the fundamentals vis-a-vis an 80 million Canadian dollar market cap, and going, yeah, okay, wait a second, there's really good value here in a company that looks like it's going to be producing silver and gold concentrate in the fourth quarter.
One more question, but you may have mentioned it, but it should be more prominent. Estimate for 2022 ounces of silver produced.
Well, frankly, securities regulations kind of prohibit me from doing that right now. The number that I can say comes from the PEA, which is average silver equivalent ounces for the year, production per year on an ongoing basis. So just under 2 million, and I'm very comfortable with that number on a go forward basis.
Okay. Excellent. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Please share your feedback on your way out or in one of the follow-up emails. It'll get straight to James. The replay will be available in about an hour, and you'll get it in an email and at mscapital.com/replays. And I'm going to pass it back to you, James, to close us and tell us why to have this on the top of our stack of investment ideas for summer 2021.
Yeah, thanks very much. This has been a lot of fun. Excellent questions, I think. And I think that if I can infer from those questions, I think everybody's got a pretty good idea about what we're planning to do for our company. We want to be a mining company. We're going to be and not an exploration company. We're going to be a mining company that's focused in central Mexico, and we're going to be Mexico's newest silver and gold producing company. So we've managed to attract a lot of very senior people, experienced people, and passionate people about putting Guanajuato Silver into production and making it into an important company in central Mexico. So thanks very much for everyone's time. gsilver.com. If you don't want to pronounce Guanajuato Silver, we're happy to have you call us G Silver, and that's the name of the website, gsilver.com. You can go and have a look, and there's a lot of fun and interesting things on it.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, James. Thanks, Sam Best. Till we meet again.
Cheers.